Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 109.
On Now You Know.
This show is brought to you by our freaking amazing Patreon supporters. You guys rock and make this show possible. Also, if you want to support the show and you like what we're wearing, you can head over to SFSF.shop. There's a link in the description down below where you can find these shirts. And every shirt you buy, $5 goes to the show.
And if you're traveling in the Illinois area, stop at the solar-powered hotel, the Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott, the most fantastic hotel because it's solar-powered, my friends.
Yeah.
And it has EV charging right there. We love those guys. All right, so our first story has to be Q3 Tesla sales.
Mm-hmm.
We heard from Tesla that the sales in Q3 kind of knocked it out of the park. 83,500 vehicles. We've got 55,840 Model 3s. 14,470 Model S's, 13,190 Model X's. And let's look at it as a chart here, because I think it's important to see growth over time. And things are moving along, and then boom!
Bam! That
Q3
is insane. And again, that's Model 3 production.
Oh, and one thing I want to point out is that, and Tesla pointed this out actually, is that their Q3 deliveries were only in North America. They were only cash and loan transactions. And let's remind ourselves that Americans typically love leases.
Right.
So there were no leased cars in any of these
Model
numbers.
3s, yeah.
And these were the most expensive cars. These are the all-wheel drives, the premium editions, the performance editions. These are not the $35,000 cars.
Right.
So just want to point that out, that if you are like, well, that's just one quarter. No, this is just the beginning.
Yes.
And another thing Tesla pointed out is that because of ocean transport costs and the import tariffs in China, that's taking a cut of about 55 to 60% cost disadvantage when they have to ship a car to China. And that's a huge competitive disadvantage.
Right.
So is this bad news?
Well, you could look at it as bad news, but the glimmer of hope, the silver lining to that cloud, is that they are working on their Shanghai factory. So pretty soon they're going to be producing Teslas in China. And unlike all the other car manufacturers that have production in China, this factory is not partnered with China at all. So usually
amazing.
There's, you have 49% of the partnership is to China. So it's more like half a factory.
Right. No one picks up on this part of the story, which is Tesla pulled it off. Like, they're the first company to be able to get their own factory in China. All right, so version 9 has rolled out to a lot of Tesla users this week. In fact, Sparky got it. But Elon responded to our friend Trevor's tweet. He said, version 9 moving to wide release now, holding back autopilot drive-on navigation for a few more weeks of validation. Extremely difficult to achieve a general solution for self-driving that works well everywhere.
This is the drive-on nav feature that we were so excited about. They're holding it back. He says for a few weeks. I don't know if that's Elon time. I mean, it does kind of nerf the excitement that I was having before about...
But I mean, we've seen it in action with some of the early users. It seemed to work really well. Why do you think he would hold it back?
I think that they probably discovered some problems that they felt that they needed to iron out. So, I mean, I think on a whole, it's probably good that they don't roll it out to everyone.
You know what's exciting to me? Most car companies, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. The car comes out, you buy it. This car company, they can actually send a beta release to some of their early software validators and check it out in real world conditions to see how it's going to behave.
Right.
And then tweak it.
And I also want to point out that, I mean, you bought Sparky 2 years ago, and there are people who bought Model S's back in 2013, 2012. All of that software gets a refresh.
Yeah.
Even if, autopilot, even if, the car didn't even have autopilot because it's from 2012 or something. All the buttons, all the UI is completely revamped. It looks
That's a really good
really
point.
fresh, because styles change for UI. And, sometimes you either pick up like an old piece of electronics or you get into an automobile that's a few years old and the little tiny screen that pops up. You look at the icons and you're like, why does it look so
that's a good
dated?
point.
Because the styles keep on changing.
Right. When version 9 fully gets drive on nav, I just want to point out a really cool feature that I hadn't quite wrapped my head around, and that is when you're driving along and you're kind of stuck behind a slow vehicle, say you're in the left lane and this guy's going too slow, drive on nav will allow you now in the Mad Max mode to actually the car will change lanes and go around that car without you having to do it. And that's a really cool feature, because how many times does that happen to you on a long trip? So some of the updates, controls and settings on the Model 3 will now be all on the same page. And I like that a lot. This means that normally on a lot of the pages, there was a little gear icon button that I always forgot about.
Right. And it held like half of the settings.
Right. And so you'd be hunting around and you'd have to go one more deep.
Right. And it was always for that weird arbitrary setting that you almost never need to switch. So you weren't remembering it. Now it's going to be all on one screen, which I think is really smart.
Right.
They have a newly redesigned media player with 3 new views, and that is for the Model S's and X's. It's sort of basically the software used to be very different on the Model 3 and on the Model S's and X's. Now they're going to be basically very similar, so it can be very easy to get into a Model S, get out of the Model S, go into a Model 3.
The climate's been redesigned, and it's more compact for the Model S and the Model X. There's now blind spot monitoring, so cars with full self-driving hardware will display red lane lines if you try to change lanes into a car.
Right.
And all 8 cameras, if you have them, will now be used with full self-driving hardware, showing the type of car that's in your blind spot.
Right.
The Model 3 rear seatbelt alerts will now mark as child seats, which is a problem that a lot of people are having. You put a child seat back there and it keeps beeping at you because it thinks like, what's going on? Now you can take care of that.
There's a new visualization of the airflow in the Model 3. Now in all cars, there is obstacle-aware acceleration, which I think we touched on a little bit last week. But basically, if the car notices that there's an obstacle in front of your car, it won't let you just floor it.
Right.
Which is a great safety feature.
And it keeps this from happening.
The Model S and Model X got enhanced navigation, so there's more info about upcoming turns and highway exit info, and this is what we were seeing on the Model 3. Lots of nice, zooming ins to the turns as you approach them. Makes it a lot easier to deal with.
And Sparky is now tracking faster. I mean, they basically found a way to like speed up the software. It's amazing.
Right. The Model 3 directions have moved to the left side of the screen, so if you were looking way too far over to see like, when's my turn coming over, they moved it to the left side of the screen. Again, amazing that you have this updatable technology.
HOV lanes are now enabled. So that means that if you typically can take an HOV lane, you can say, I'm enabling that so that it'll now route you through an HOV lane. Seems like a small thing, but it can be a big thing when you're in traffic. So make sure you enable Wi-Fi in your car and you'll get the download of version 9 even faster.
So the Model 3 got a new application launcher at the bottom of the touchscreen. So this includes the web browser, which wasn't there before. The calendar app, which again wasn't there before.
Yeah, and the calendar app syncs with your phone, so you can now have, if you have a calendar item coming up, it can share that location with your car, and you can navigate right to it.
Right. So if you were like, oh, where is that place that we need to meet? It's going to be in the calendar app. Yep. So once you sync that, it totally works.
Make sure that you've enabled your calendar sync in your Tesla mobile app, or that won't work.
Another big update is that the Model 3 will be getting the energy display. Which
that is cool.
If you've been driving a Model 3 this whole time, you have not had. This was really useful in the Model S and the Model X. It showed you during a trip what your energy was going to look like. So it would, there's a mountain there, and we'll be using the most energy here.
Yeah, get in there and play with it because it's really helpful when you're planning a trip. And it's also just really cool to see the data coming from your car. You can look at the average instant range, but more importantly, the average range.
So you can improve as a driver because you'll see, if I stop accelerating so much and I, don't drive at 100,000 miles an hour on the highway, my range goes up. Also, the dash cam we talked about last week, we found out that it'll be a 1 hour circular buffer, and it requires about a 1.8 gigabyte of free space USB. So you'll take your USB drive, you'll stick it in your USB slot, and then it'll start recording. It takes about 30 megabytes of space for about 1 minute of video. And the Tesla app was updated, as we said last week, sharing nav, passenger control media, and now you can start your over-the-air updates from your phone. And for those of you in the UK, Tesla just tweeted out that the version 9 rollout should be happening in a few weeks. Okay, so there's some new Tesla referral perks. They've started a new referral program. And so this referral program is going to last until December 10th. Jesse, what are some of the perks? So if you get one referral, you can launch your photo into deep space orbit. What? So they said that we will laser etch any image onto glass and send it into deep space orbit for millions of years. Refer more friends while you wait for an alien race to discover your payload. Now, by the way, you're getting 2 copies, one for you, one for space.
Oh, so the aliens get one, you get one.
Right.
What are we going to say on ours?
I don't know. We come in
Comment
peace.
below with some ideas.
Probably do
Love is the answer.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
For one refer.
Yeah, one referral, you get something on a spaceship.
On a that goes into deep space. When was the last time you got to do that?
Wow.
That's
almost
freaking cool.
I almost don't want to get the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and 5th. What do you get for 2?
For 2, you get signature black wall connector or a Founder Series Model S for kids.
For 3 referrals, you get the 21-inch Arachnid wheel set for the S, or the 22-inch turbines for the X, or
1 week with a Model S or X.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
For 4, you get the priority access to software updates. What do you get for 5?
You get Tesla Unveiling Invitation Experience plus guest.
Don't forget to use our referral code, because in addition to the $100 Supercharger credit that you'll be getting from Tesla, from us, you'll be getting
a free test ride in
this.
The next generation Roadster, 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. You go to Plaid. And that's going to be
fun.
Stupid fun. Okay, so what's this map? This is some kind of a green map. So everything's green in this map.
It is a pretty green map. Yeah, so this is a solar grid parity map. This is showing the different states and which state it is actually less expensive to go solar than it is to stick to traditional grid.
Okay, so it's just all green.
It's all green. So if you keep the federal tax credit on there, which is a 30% tax credit, then it's actually, there's no state in the union that it isn't cheaper to actually install solar. So what you're seeing here now when we take off the federal tax credit is that Washington State, which has extremely cheap electricity, is just a little bit less expensive to stick to non-solar. But I will point out, this is with $3 per watt price, which is actually kind of high. Oh. We're actually closer to 2.
Okay, so if we adjust that, make that adjustment real quick.
Then you see we go back to a green.
It's just completely
country.
Green. Just everywhere.
And I just thought this was neat because you can scroll down and look at your state. And I think the problem here in America is we've been told for so long that there's just no alternative and that solar is expensive. We haven't realized how fast solar is coming down in price. It's just dropping like a stone. And so if you've ever been thinking about solar but you never really looked into it, look into it, because I think you're going to find that it's actually very cost effective to go solar. All right, some kind of sad news. The Hambach forest in western Germany, it's one of Germany's oldest forests, is being cut down by an energy company, RWE. And the reason they're doing that
is to extract coal beneath the forest for power plants.
Yeah, for the past 6 years, environmental activists have been living in the forest to stop this destruction. We can see this time lapse here, which shows the destruction since the 1980s, where they basically have just been clear cutting so that they can get the coal from underneath. And this forest was home to about 140 endangered species and some of Europe's oldest trees. Now, almost 90% of the forest is already fallen. And according to a court plan, another 100 hectares will be destroyed this month for more coal extraction. The good news is that as we went to press, a court in Germany temporarily halted the destruction. Now, that doesn't mean that it's halted for good. It just, there's some legal hang up. We don't know what that's going to lead to. But I think it's important to point out that Germany is the largest producer and the largest consumer of lignite coal in the world. Now, I didn't know that because I thought that Germany was like this green powerhouse.
Right.
But they still use a lot of coal.
Because they're just a powerhouse. I mean, they just use a ton of energy.
That's true.
Because they're a huge manufacturing nation.
And this, I mean, a quarter of their country's electricity comes from this polluting energy source. And I guess that's the point I wanted to make, which is when you hear about something and you're like, well, it's good, they're almost all the way there. That little part that's not all the way there has so much destruction involved with it. You got to get this coal somehow. Coal mining in Germany accounts for about 20,000 jobs. Now, when I heard that, I was like, oh, wow, that's a large part of their economy. But then we researched from our newsroom, how many renewable energy jobs do they have?
Over 330,000.
So
more than 10 times the number of renewable energy jobs.
Right. So for all those people out there like, oh, well, the poor coal miners are going to lose their jobs. What about the renewable energy jobs?
Right.
They're far more important for the economy. And all those coal jobs can change over to new clean jobs, which are, I'd rather work in a solar plant. So it seems that even the Brits aren't immune to a little FUD.
This came out by the Sunday Times driving section that said, electric cars could clog up our roads over the next 3 decades.
So what's their argument?
They say that traffic levels will go up by 17 to 51% by 2050.
Why?
Well, because EVs are so much cheaper to drive and the population is going up, meaning that up to 16% of the roads will be clogged up by 2050. Now, what these articles don't really talk about is that ride sharing, new forms of transportation like Hyperloop and Loop, boring tunnels, but I think mostly autonomous driving will drastically reduce the number of cars on the roads.
A lot of people don't get it when we talk about that.
No.
And they're like, well, how does autonomous driving mean less cars? There's still the same number of people.
We have an entire series about this, which you can go check out. We'll put the thing right up there, right above Zach's head. Go watch that. We explain a lot of the details. But this article is super misleading because they're basically blaming EVs for population increase, which causes traffic regardless.
Yeah, let's pretend EVs didn't exist. There's going to be traffic as more people get on the roads and drive their ICE cars around.
Right.
And the other thing they're not pointing out, and the headline of this should have been, is that they even say this down the very bottom of the article. So even if they're right about this congestion, the CO2 levels are estimated to drop by 17 to 76% by 2050, and the toxic nitrogen oxides are going to drop by 95%. So the headline should have been, EVs are going to clean up our atmosphere.
Right. And I mean, this is just a prediction. This is a prediction that is 32 years out.
Wait, so yeah, they're predicting 2050. It's now 2018.
Right. So I mean,
when's the last time a 32-year prediction was right?
I mean, probably back in the Middle Ages. Like, I think that farming will still happen in 32 years. And it's like, yes, farming will still happen in 32 years. Not a big prediction.
I think witches will be burned at the stake.
Right. It's like, okay, yes, it's the Middle Ages. There's no change.
Ha-ha!
But I mean, let's go back 32 years.
All right, 1986.
Right. What were the predictions we were making?
I had a prediction.
Yeah.
1986, top movie. Top Gun. Mm-hmm. I predicted that Tom Cruise, just like the rest of us, would age.
And he hasn't. So it goes to show that the predictions that you make for 32 years in the future, I mean, especially right now, even in 1986, we were like, oh, maybe there will still be cars.
Who thought you wouldn't still have your landline?
Right. And who could have predicted the internet?
All right, so Consumer Reports came out with their first time ever ranking of autopilot software, and they ranked the Cadillac Super Cruise as number 1.
They said that Tesla was number 2, followed by Nissan's Pro Pilot Assist, and then Volvo's Pilot Assist system.
Jake Fisher, director of auto testing at Consumer Reports, said, stacked up against each other, you can really see significant differences. The best systems balance capability with safeguards, making driving easier and less stressful in the right situations. Without proper safeguards, over-reliance on the system is too easy, which puts drivers at risk. So to keep drivers from getting too complacent, Super Cruise tries to ensure that drivers stay focused with a small camera on their eyes that assesses whether they're watching the road. And if the system determines that a driver isn't paying enough attention, the driver gets red warning lights right on the steering wheel. Also, audible alerts and a vibrating seat before the system starts to slow the car down.
I think that there is a bit of a ponderance that I have here.
What is your ponderance?
So they measured a couple different metrics. Mm-hmm. One of them was automation capability.
Smart.
Which is basically how well does it drive.
Yep.
Tesla was the top in that category.
Okay.
But for some reason, Tesla was number 2 overall.
Well, yeah, let's look at their categories.
Okay.
Automation capability, like you said.
Yep.
Ease of use.
Yes.
Then this one's called clear to drivers when system can be used.
Okay.
Next one's called system making sure driver is paying attention to road.
Okay.
And lastly, what does the system do if driver doesn't pay attention?
Right. And so
here's my problem with Consumer Reports overall.
Okay.
Even if they're reviewing a washing machine, they always do the same thing. They have a bunch of different categories, right? How well it washes clothes, how loud it is, blah, blah, blah. They give, which one's best, which one isn't. And then they rank them all the same weight.
Oh, so they weigh them all evenly.
Right. And here's my problem with that.
You have a washing machine.
Yeah. And so washing clothes, to me, should be heavily ranked. Like if it can wash clothes well, that's super important to me.
Right.
If it's super quiet, that's cool to know. But if it can't wash clothes
at all,
then being quiet isn't that important at all.
Right, because there's like the main
Because
purpose.
I could sell you a quiet box. Here's a washing machine.
Right, you put all your clothes in it,
Right.
and then you wait half an hour, and then you take your clothes out.
It's really energy efficient.
Nothing happens.
And it's quiet.
Right. You don't even have to plug it in.
And so 2 out of 3 metrics, it's perfect.
Right.
That's not a washing machine. Same thing here. If it can't do automation well, then all these other factors don't really matter much.
Right. And let's talk about Cadillac's Auto Cruise. They couldn't get it to work on their racetrack scenario. They had to only be able to use it on the highways.
And everyone I've talked to who uses it says it can't go even 1 mile on a regular well-marked road before it fails. So under Consumer Report system, that's actually a good thing because that means it's going to keep the driver alert because they know I can't keep this thing on the road. I can't trust it. So that means that it's going to get very high marks on these other rankings.
Right. It's nice that Super Cruise has the camera that's watching their eyes. One thing that you might forget is that Tesla also has a camera. It's not turned on right now because their software isn't fully rolled out.
Right.
Now, of course, we're talking about right now, so I'm not going to knock Consumer Reports for ignoring that, but I am going to knock them for not rating the automation capability as 80% of the whole metric. I mean, that's the whole point. If you're using a system that dangerously takes control of the car, then it's not really that useful. It's like if you like, oh yeah, you just put a 4-year-old in your lap and they can take care of the car for you. And it's like, and the good news is you're definitely going to be paying attention. It's like, yes, because it's a 4-year-old driving a car. And I'm not saying that Super Cruise is as bad as a 4-year-old, but it is not as good as Tesla's autopilot, not by a long shot. So,
I mean, if I were Consumer Reports, I kind of like rating a driving system by what age driver you think is driving the car.
Right.
So, I mean, one way to look at it is, would you trust, let's say, a 16-year-old behind the wheel? No, not that much. You'd want to pay close attention to them. I think that Teslas have gone from 16-year-old drivers to now about 20-year-old drivers, and there's a lot of trust there.
Right.
I mean, we've driven practically everywhere in this country.
I've driven thousands upon thousands of miles, and that was with older AP software.
Right.
The newer AP software is amazing.
Yes.
I was driving along, and I was driving over a couple of overpasses, and there was absolutely no lines on the road.
Oh, so it disappeared on the overpasses because we're in Massachusetts.
Right, and for some reason, they just don't paint overpasses or whatever.
You don't need that.
There's no lines on the road. Everyone's driving along at, highway speeds, and all of a sudden, there's no lines on the road. You could see the lines very far away. And I was in autopilot, and I was paying attention, obviously. I'm looking at the road in front of me, and I was like, there's no lines. So I get ready to take control at a moment's notice, and I'm ready, and we get onto the overpass, and I'm ready to take over. I'm ready for the wheel to jerk and do something crazy. I'm ready for the worst possible scenario, and it's going, and we go across, and I didn't have to touch the wheel.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I lose a little bit of trust for Consumer Reports when I know very well about all these cars. If I didn't and I was reading Consumer Reports, I'd be like, oh, the Cadillac. Now that's a good one.
Gotta pick me up one of those.
I mean, come on. It's not even in the same league. So Tesla has released their Q3 vehicle safety report. Remember, a few months ago, they announced that they would be every quarter announcing how safe their vehicles are.
And this is the first one.
This is the first one. Now,
and it's a doozy.
It is really cool. First of all, I want to point this out that I didn't know. Tesla is the only manufacturer that can monitor crashes pretty much in real time. So they know about every crash or crash-like event that their cars get into almost immediately. And we've heard from drivers that when they've gotten into an accident, they call you in the car and say, it looks like you've been in an accident. Are you all right? Can we send a tow truck? Can we send you help?
Right.
We will stay with you on the line during this very stressful time until you're safely, off the road, whatever. That's amazing.
Right. It's kind of like that OnStar service that,
But you don't even have to push a button. They know.
And you don't even have to subscribe to this, roadside assistance thing. It's not like you're paying a monthly fee to have, a call center ready to take your, emergency call.
And on top of that, that means that they have all of this data that no other manufacturer has. So if we look at crash data for all cars in the United States, we see from NHTSA data that in Q3, there was one crash for every 492,000 miles driven. So that's the average driver in the United States. Now let's look at the Tesla without using autopilot. So you just hop in your car and you're doing all the driving. What's your chance of getting into a crash?
One crash every 1.92 million miles. That is 3.9 times safer.
Why is it safer?
Well, you have automatic emergency braking and lots of other safety features in the car. Such as you could have lane departure warning if you really wanted to. That's fantastic. Now, with autopilot engaged,
Okay.
there is one crash for every 3.34 million miles. That is 6.7 times safer than your average car.
I don't think that most people can even wrap their head around this because we're so used to crash safety being once you've gotten into an accident and we look at the stars like, oh, this is safe in a crash.
Right.
This is basically how likely you'll be in a crash to begin with in a Tesla.
Right.
So buying this car, not only are you safe in the crash, you're far less likely to get into the crash to begin with.
Right. I just want to remind everyone, 5-star crash safety rating in every category. That's if you get into a collision,
Right.
which you are 7 times less likely to get into with autopilot
It used to be
engaged.
when I was a kid that people would buy Volvos. They would spend an enormous amount of money extra to buy a Volvo for one reason only. They sold their brand as being the safest car. Mm-hmm. And so if you saw someone in a Volvo, you're like, they really care about their family. That's awesome. They built their whole company's reputation on that. Tesla, not only are you safe by the normal metrics, you're now safe by this new metric of you're going to be far less
avoiding
likely
accidents.
Yes, it's compounded safety.
Right. And now some people might say, okay, all right, but listen, Teslas are really expensive vehicles, and you got to be really smart and really successful to be able to afford a Tesla, which means that you're going to be, on average, smarter than the average driver on the road. To which I say, touche, fair point. Let's say, for argument's sake, that Tesla drivers are just super more intelligent, more successful, better drivers than your average user. Let's take that 4 times safety factor without autopilot, and let's just chuck it out the window and say that was just because they're better drivers. Mm-hmm. Well, now you're looking at the autopilot engaged, right, and it's almost 2 times safer.
Right.
Which means that autopilot is safer than the Tesla drivers, who are 4 times safer than the normal drivers.
Right.
I mean, that is insane.
It is insane. And we're going to be getting this data every quarter, so we can see as more Model 3 drivers start getting on the road, how do the numbers stack up?
Right.
What other car company does this?
Right.
Most car companies don't even know if you've been in a crash. They don't know any numbers about the cars that they sell and if they've been in crashes or not.
Right.
Tesla is tuned into everything.
Right. I mean, Teslas have basically what is like a black box on every car,
Yeah,
which records the crash data. So then Tesla can go back, analyze it, and be like, oh my gosh, we could have avoided this, because they can then look back at all the camera feeds and be like, oh, you know what? Put that into our neural net. Let's figure out how to fix this. Mm-hmm. That's insane, and no other company is doing that, and no one else is talking about this.
Exactly. You know what else no one's talking about, Jesse?
Fly fishing.
Yeah.
Some people are talking about fly fishing.
Yeah, some people are. I mean, well, you know what I want to talk about?
Yeah, what?
Is this crazy,
unhinged madman that keeps tweeting. I'm talking about Elon.
Oh, Elon. Okay.
Yeah, remember in July he tweeted out that he would pay for any Flint resident that needed a water filter?
Right.
That's crazy. That's unhinged. That's mad.
Right. Why? Because you thought he wasn't going to do it?
Oh, he did?
Well, so this is from the Flint Public Schools. They said, thank you, Elon Musk and the Musk Foundation, for investing in the health, future, and well-being of Flint students. Your generous donations will help us replace all water fountains with new water stations and water filtration at all schools. Looking forward to our burgeoning partnership. More to come. So basically, that tweet that Elon had said about putting in filters in Flint, Michigan, he followed through on that. So I just want to point out that the Musk Foundation was founded by Elon and Kimball in 2002 with a focus on research of space travel, renewable energy, pediatrics, and science tech.
That's not so crazy.
Right. Is this in the mainstream news? Is this the thing that you're hearing about? No, of course. You are hearing about all sorts of other crazy stuff that's going on.
All right, this next story, BMW sales are soaring.
What?
Yeah, according to Bernd Kunt, the chief executive officer of BMW North America, he says, quote, Tesla is now ramping up their volumes and is putting pressure on that market segment. In that environment, I'm very, very pleased to say we were up.
I don't think that's true.
Why don't you think it's true? Let's look at some numbers then.
Okay.
Let's pull up these numbers.
Okay, so
these are sales numbers. Let's see what we got here.
So we have the Model 3 here, which sold 22,250 cars in September.
That's not up much from last September, though.
That is up 18,917% from last September. And they've sold 78,677 Model 3s year to date as of September.
All right, well, to be fair, why don't you look at the BMW numbers?
Okay, so we're going now from Model 3, which is the number 4 top-selling passenger car in the U.S. behind the Camry, Accord, and Civic. And we're going down here, going down all the way to the BMW 3 Series.
All right, look at those numbers.
Yes, okay, so they had 3,615 sales in September, which is down 40% from last September and down 19.6% year to date from last year. So they're down.
So wait, so how did BMW, what was BMW talking about?
Well, the U.S. officer of BMW was talking about sales overall, globally. So despite all of the lowering sales of the 3 Series.
It's amazing to me how corporate people can just go like massage and spin the data to make it look good for their shareholders.
I just also want to point out, if you look a little bit higher than the BMW 3 Series, you'll see the Model S, which is up 56% from last September and up 15% from last year. The Model S is selling better than the BMW 3 Series, and the Model S is wildly more expensive.
Wow.
It's insane.
And I just want to say, like, if next July, if the numbers hold true, I mean, if we did a little math here, right? If the Model 3 can average 7,442 cars per week,
Right, which they're not at in terms of production now.
but if they can average that by July of next year, that would give them enough sales to basically tie Camry for the number 1 passenger car in the United States.
Which is insane.
Which is insane, and it's totally doable. And I'm going to predict it. I've been predicting it since last July. I'm going to predict it again. I think next July, 2019, we're going to see the Model 3 at the top of that list. So Jesse,
Okay.
let's see if you can pick whether this is concept or reality. This is the DS-X E-Tense.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's concept.
Okay. How about this one? The Mercedes-Benz Vision EQ Silver Arrow.
Where the hell is the door?
So what do you think?
Concept.
Okay. How about this? The Renault Easy Ultimo.
That's a concept.
How about this one? The GAC eVerge. A little tough here. This is a Chinese company.
That's gonna say concept.
See a steering wheel? Okay. All right. How about this one? The Renault KZE all-electric crossover.
That looks not that concept-y at all.
Yeah, looks like a real car.
I'm gonna say real.
Okay. When do you think it's coming out?
I'm gonna say it's coming out in 2020.
Yeah, close. 2019 in China, 2020 in Europe.
Okay.
And what price do you think it'll be?
I don't know.
Well, you know what price it is?
No.
Affordable.
That's a price, huh?
Yep. Renault said it's going to be affordable.
Okay, so they're going to make it affordable. That looks like a great thing. I mean, I think that anyone would want that car. That looks great.
Don't you want to know the range first?
I'm going to say it's going to be in the... it has to be at least more than a Leaf's range of like 160, 180 miles.
Well, according to the manufacturer, it'll have 250 kilometers of range.
Isn't that 155 miles? That's...
Yep.
I mean, that's...
Is that on the cusp of what you want?
It's barely passable. I'd say, yeah, that's barely passable.
But unfortunately, that's what the manufacturer said. The actual numbers are probably going to be closer to 190 kilometers range.
Oh, because they did the NEDC thing to trick us up.
Yeah, so it's going to probably be 118 miles of range. Still want it?
No. That's just a big Leaf.
So that's reality for you, Jesse. That's how reality works.
I don't want to hate on this car.
No.
Maybe in China it works well because maybe that's the range that you need. Maybe in Europe,
why is China different than
118 miles? I don't know.
People still need to go to grandma's house.
America's a big place. Big
so
country.
China's a little bit big too.
Right.
I'm just saying. Come on, guys, put a bigger battery in there.
Yeah, it's true. And give us a price.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's affordable. I mean, if it were 10 grand, bingo, got yourself a winner.
Might be. It's going to be affordable.
It's affordable.
You know how we've been talking about the WLTP test in Germany. In fact, even last week I said it's better than the test that came before it because it's more realistic to how you drive a car.
It proved that basically a lot of the plug-in hybrids weren't clean enough.
Right. Well, get this. They've now actually shown that real-world driving is actually 9 times deadlier than what this new test is supposed to do.
So there's this... Okay, wait, let's parse this again. So
Okay. So the latest testing by NGO Transport and Environment, T&E, finds the newest Euro 6 cars in Europe can emit well over the legal limit when driven on roads with hills, with more typical accelerations, and at faster speeds that are more representative of the way cars are typically driven.
So you're saying that the WLTP standard doesn't have cars that drive on roads with hills?
Nope, they still kind of flattened out the data so that it's more like perfect world.
Instead of real world where people are, accelerating.
Exactly.
And they're driving up hills.
Well, let me give you an example here.
But the hills, come on.
Well, you could get to grandma's house.
It's
driving
Europe. There's hills.
Some places. There's some flat, France is pretty flat.
Denmark, maybe. But, I mean, still, there's still hills.
Okay, so here's an example. Nitrous oxide emissions from a 2018 diesel Honda Civic met legal limits during an official test, but emissions increased 9-fold when driven in a way not captured by the EU's new real-world driving test. Similarly, a petrol Ford Fiesta had particulate emissions more than twice the limit when driven in a more comprehensive way.
Wow. So, I mean, looking at this data here, that looks bad.
Actually, it looks bad, Jesse, but if you look at the scale of the chart...
Oh, yeah, what's that squiggly line there?
That means that they couldn't fit the chart the way it should have fit, so they had to change the
height of the
axis.
bars.
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
It's actually looks bad this way, but it should look like this. Yeah, so that's the way it should look.
Oh,
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
That's awful. And I mean, this is harmful emissions that we're talking about. This is not like oh, there's more daisies coming out of the back of this thing. Like this is
Right.
poison.
Clean vehicle engineer at T&E, Florent Grelier, concluded the data show that cars with internal combustion engines were not clean in the past, are not clean today, and will not be clean in the foreseeable future. The car industry will always find new ways to circumvent tests and optimize results. The only way to ensure cars are truly clean is to accelerate the shift to zero-emission technology and electromobility. All right, it's time for the lightning round.
Here we go.
From Moscow with e-buses. What does that mean?
The Russian embassy just tweeted that they are developing urban infrastructure with 200 electric buses ordered from Russian companies by the city of Moscow, with 900 more to come by 2020. The city plans to get rid of all diesel models within a year after that. That's great.
If you're a resident of Edmonton, Canada, you can get solar installation costs on your house cut by 30%. And if you're a business, you can get them cut by 25%. Just check out this link down below because Alberta's going to help you get solar. So VW and Microsoft are teaming up. Why are they teaming up?
Well, let's read this little marketing thing here.
Oh, okay.
As Volkswagen began planning for its push into electric cars and autonomous technology, the company faced a major challenge: how to build a connected car that enabled drivers to seamlessly access digital services on the go.
What are they talking about?
A driver might, for example, be listening to music at home and want to continue listening as she gets in the car.
Is there a problem that
Need to jump on a conference call? Then check her online calendar. Accessing those services on the road can be problematic, since applications from third-party providers typically don't talk to each other in a seamless way. To address that challenge and gain the knowledge to build its own mobility services, Volkswagen turned to Microsoft.
Microsoft?
The two companies are partnering to develop the Volkswagen Automotive Cloud, a dedicated global cloud platform that will provide digital mobility services across the automaker's portfolio.
Okay, listen.
That sounds great.
No,
Who is that announcer, by the way? That's just fantastic.
I do not need another cloud in my life.
Why not?
I have too many clouds in my life already. I mean, there's there's...
Is this a metaphor for your life? What's...
Let's look at Microsoft.
Okay.
Their OneDrive thing.
Oh, don't you love that? Isn't it wonderful?
When was the last time you used it and it worked well? Like, put in the comments down below, like, when was the last time? I've never been like, oh, how convenient. I'm a Google Drive, that's okay. Google Photos is okay.
I mean, does VW remember what Microsoft did for MP3s? Remember the Zune?
No.
Knock that one out of the park.
Apologies. I don't understand.
Hey, Google, shut up. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, like, you're going to add more of this. We don't need this. Like, I can already listen to music on my way out the door and into my car, and I don't even have a smart car. My car is not a smart connected cloud car.
As we try to value Tesla, people say $50 billion, that's so expensive. Tesla's already figured this all out. You get in your car and it's already got your calendar synced. Your music, like it's all done.
I don't know what kind of I don't want another cloud. I don't want another service that's now Microsoft. I'm going to need a Microsoft account that needs to be linked with my VW account.
It's okay.
It's going to be some kind of,
It's okay. Why did they do this?
Okay, let's talk about other things.
So there's going to be a $1 billion expansion of the Tuscaloosa, Alabama Mercedes-Benz factory, where they produce more than 310,000 vehicles a year, and they currently employ 3,700 workers. This expansion will add 600 jobs and start producing batteries for the Mercedes-Benz EQC battery-powered crossover. They will actually start producing the EQC in Alabama in 2020. By 2022, let's remember, Mercedes will electrify their entire portfolio. Let's remember that electrification means
that they will offer hybrids.
Right.
So you can get a hybrid version of almost any car, which is good, but it's not electrificationing.
I like that they're investing in batteries right here in the U.S. That's
good.
May change some people's minds in Alabama, the way they vote.
But I mean, 600 jobs compared to the Gigafactory is a drop in the bucket.
So Honda announced that it will invest $2.75 billion in Cruise automation.
Isn't Cruise not owned by Honda? Isn't it owned by a different car manufacturer? Isn't it owned by GM?
Yes.
Aren't GM and Honda competitors because they both produce cars? Why?
Well, that's the big question here. I mean, so basically this starts with the $750 million payment by Honda, which will give them a 5.7% stake in Cruise, and then $2 billion more over the next 12 years, and that'll be in the form of development work and fees. Don't forget that GM purchased Cruise for $1 billion in 2016. Mm-hmm. So we're already seeing an amazing growth in this company because automation is going to be huge. GM currently is working on its third generation of self-driving vehicle, the Cruise AV, and they're building those at the Orion plant in Michigan. GM President Dan Amon wants a fully autonomous car by 2019, and the goal is to have no driver controls and no driver.
So it's interesting to note that Toyota and SoftBank announced last week a strategic partnership to facilitate the creation of new mobility services.
Yeah, so what this is showing is basically there's a lot of car companies that finally are getting it. They need to be in autonomous, but they don't know how to do it.
Right, so Honda, they weren't like, oh, don't worry, we've got this. Let's come up with our own autonomous driving platform. They're like, we didn't start doing this. We should have done this 2 years ago.
Throw some money at it.
So they're basically going to be paying Cruise a lot of money to hopefully get their technology?
We don't know. That's kind of why we're covering the stories, because we're watching companies scramble now, and it's not clear why wouldn't you do it in-house. I mean, Honda for years has developed their own robots, right? They have a whole robotics division. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of smart engineers. Why wouldn't you start working on this problem in-house?
Robots and autonomous technology are two very different things.
Well, let's talk about robots. This is the drywall robot. So Japan's Advanced Industrial Science and Technology Institute has this well-named robot, the HRP-5P.
It's a good name.
What can it do?
It can do drywall. Look at this. It has its little
oh my god, I'm salivating
backhand hook things, and then it can pick up the drywall, put it in place.
Oh my god.
It can use a screw gun.
Does its back hurt? I don't see any back belt.
It doesn't need it because it doesn't have a dumb human spine like we do.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, I am completely jealous and I want one because you don't know how many sheets of sheetrock I put up over the years, and my back is feeling it right now.
The ones behind us,
That's right. I did watch this video a few times and noticed that it's not that good at putting up sheetrock. They did a lot of cuts. Right after a screw would go in, they cut the video.
Right.
But hey, I would much rather supervise a robot doing it than do it myself. And
I think there'd be a lot of like, all right, HRP
time for a break.
5P, take that one off. You marred the whole surface with a screw gun.
But I will say, this is just the first iteration. Wait till AI gets put into this thing and wait till it gets better.
It's a little less clunky, yeah.
Can you imagine how fast it's probably going to be able to put up sheetrock in a couple of years?
It doesn't. Well, and here's the thing. It doesn't matter how fast it can put up sheetrock.
It can do it all night.
It doesn't get tired.
Yeah.
And yes, it can do it all night. So even if it's 3 times slower than, Bob and your cousin Joey,
Right.
it'll still be faster because it'll just be like, oh, and the next day it was done.
And will it cover all the outlets? HRP5, you covered all the outlets.
Why didn't you mark? You missed all the studs.
Did I do that?
I mean, I assume it has
Stud technology.
stud vision.
All right, it's time for our video contributor story. What do we got this week, Jesse?
We got Rob from Mexico, and he's talking to us about some electric motorcycles.
Take it away, Rob.
Hello, Zach and Jesse. This is Roberto reporting from Guadalajara, Mexico. With 8 million people, this is the second largest city in the country, and as most major cities in the world, we have pollution and traffic issues every day. One solution to this problem is Golobold. They are an electric motorcycle dealership which started operations earlier in 2018 and brought to the city these affordable electric motorcycles. These are manufactured by a Chinese company called Shiwok, which specializes in producing and selling multiple kinds of electric vehicles, including cars and buses. According to Jose Jimenez, general director of the company, one of their objectives is to provide an alternative way of clean transportation in urban environments within an affordable price. They started offering models in the low-cost range with an average autonomy of 50 kilometers or 30 miles with a full charge and a maximum speed of 50 kilometers per hour or 30 miles per hour with a 500 watts motor and a 60 volts lead-based battery. They will be introducing in the following months their mid-range models with the same maximum speed but an increased range of autonomy up to 70 kilometers or 43 miles and 1200 watts motor with a payload up to 150 kilograms or 330 pounds. Prices for the low-range models are around $950 and for the mid-range they expect to have a price between $1,100 and $1,400. It takes between 6 and 10 hours to fully charge them, and every full charge costs an average of 2 Mexican pesos, which are about 10 cents for US currency. Plus, you don't need any special electric installation as they plug as any other electric device. Another interesting thing about this product is that according to the law, these are considered e-bikes. For that reason, you don't need to have a license or a plate to drive around the city. And of course, as it is electric, you have no noise and no pollution. Thanks for watching, and now you know.
I love video contributor stories.
Yeah.
They bring us to a different part of the world and they give us a different perspective. I would never have known about this, and it's affecting people's lives. These are, first of all, really cool. The fact that China is able to make them so cheaply and find a market for them, and then you don't need a special license.
Right.
This is amazing.
That's great.
And the price, if that's the price now, imagine what the price is going to be a couple of years.
Right, and they're clean. As he said, this is a very heavily trafficked, heavily polluted area, completely clean.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob. All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. If you guys are like, what is Patreon and what are these guys talking about every week? Patreon is how we actually support our channel. People become patrons and they support us for as little as $1 a month, and we give them a bonus, right? We have all these cool perks, but one of the perks we have is you can go watch our Patreon bonus stories.
Right,
and we have a lot of cool stories.
That is the base level bonus. Everyone, every Patreon gets that.
Right. And then you can go up from there and get all sorts of cool things like t-shirts and mugs and stuff like that.
So you can head over to patreon.com.
Support us.
And if you're like, what are all these Patreon stories? Here's a little trick that you can do. If you're like, I want to get a taste of this, but I don't want to spend a lot of money. Go into Patreon. Support us for $1.
Okay. Check it out.
Here's what you can do. You can watch every Patreon bonus story we've ever done.
That's right.
I'm telling you, these are hacks, cheat codes.
That's right. And you can see if it's worth it.
Yeah. You can go back. You can watch 10, 15 of them. I don't even know how many we've
our
done.
Patreon bonus stories are really a lot of fun. We let our hair down. So go over there, check it out. And
then if you're like, you know what, this is worth it, you can continue. If you don't like it, you could stop. You could just give us that $1.
Right, and then yank your
watch
support.
all of our shows for a penny.
And then be like, I yanked my support.
Yeah.
You bozos.
But, give it a shot. See if you like it.
Hey, we're back from our Patreon bonus stories, and it's time for our Patreon shoutouts. And you might see something a little new this week. We're trying to do some more shoutouts because we have a backlog, and we want to get to all of you. So we're going to do a few more today, but you're all still just as special.
We have Carlos Augustin,
Lance Larson,
Whit Erich,
Garland Garner,
Quinn Duggan,
Charles Bundick,
Michael Richard,
Jacob Frovin Jorgensen,
Walter Delson,
Brian Shoemaker,
Jay Lucas,
Mikel Uriarte,
James Sene,
Andrew Lloyd,
and Nigel Price.
Thank you guys for supporting us.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Couldn't do the show without you.
All right, it's time for Elon's tweet of the week. And now this is a very controversial one because it comes on the heels of the SEC basically saying, you got to stop tweeting like that. And let's see what he said. Just want to that the Short Seller Enrichment Commission is doing incredible work. And the name change is so on point. So then Brian Vaughn tweeted back to him.
He said, seriously, you still need their help convincing a judge that your penalty was sufficient. Maybe a $420 million fine would have been more appropriate.
Elon said, the opposite is true. And then Ivor Ivanov said, amazingly, you two seem to be working against longs. Elon said, hang in there. If you are truly long-term, it will be fine. Then a follow-up tweet from Robert Scoble said, hey, Elon, you need a social team that can get attention without typos and without enraging the Short Seller Enrichment Committee. While you are at it, can you tell me what you see in these bubbles on my Tesla glass? Your dreams are so crazy. Focus on those, Elon said.
Sorry about the typo. That was unforgivable. Why would they be upset about their mission? It's what they do.
Scoble then replied, people hate having the truth of their sins pointed out to them. What I like about you is you make my inner child come alive by building rockets, electric cars that zoom, and more. Anytime you get away from fixing the future, hit these. These are the brakes.
A lot of people are upset at Elon for making the Short Seller Enrichment Committee comment. A lot of people are worried that he's going to lose his CEO-ship by tweeting this out.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like you guys to just relax a little bit.
Take a step back.
The First Amendment can't be easily broken by the SEC first by making a joke.
It's well within his rights in the United States Constitution to poke fun at the SEC. Now, should he do that is another story. Should he be poking this tiger? I think it's probably not the best decision. I personally don't care. Like, if he was telling that to me and he was like, I think that the SEC should be called the Short Seller Enrichment Committee, I'd be like, Elon, that's hilarious. Ha 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 ha. But he wasn't just talking to me. He was tweeting it out to 22 million people and everyone who can look at Twitter.
Elon has 22 million Twitter followers. I don't think any of us can understand what that feels like. If Jesse and I, if we're talking to you now, we're talking to maybe 40,000 people. That's a lot, but 22 million is on a whole different playing field.
Yeah.
So I think that he gets a huge dopamine rush when he tweets something out. It must feel really cool to get your thoughts out to that many people. And I think that going back to, when he was a kid, he was bullied. Whenever he gets bullied in the world, like the SEC bullied him, I think that he feels like I can get a little good feeling when I tweet something like this out.
I would say that it's not even so much maybe the dopamine, but it's just that he feels like justice needs to be served.
Sure.
And I truly do respect that in him. I mean,
I think that inner child statement that we heard from that tweeter was right. It's like it makes me happy on one level when he does that because I'm like, I like it that you stuck it to them.
Right, because honestly, they were in the wrong, right. And let's give it to them. But it's not the most effective way to do that.
No, I mean, if you came home from work one day and you were upset about something and you were venting to me, I would let you vent. It's good to vent. We should all let it out when we're feeling that way.
But it's not good to be in the middle of the office and be like, Jeff is such a jerk. Oh, I hate that guy, Jeff. He's the worst. Isn't he the worst? And everyone's like, some people are like, yeah, he's the worst. And then
most people are like this.
Most people are like, okay. It's not the right...
No, it's not the right form.
Because Twitter is just shouting to everyone,
right.
Hey, everyone, I think that the SEC sucks. And it's like,
right.
Yes, they suck. We agree that they suck. Right. But you can't... It's like, I'm going to do this thing. It's like if you wanted to get back at someone, and instead of conniving and coming up with a plan, you were just
that hits on it. It when you vent,
right.
It's great to get it out. You need to get it out, but then you need to come up with a plan. And his supporters and his inner circle should be helping him come up with a strategy that long term will win. When he was bullied as a kid,
right.
The strategy should not be to knock the bully's lunch tray over at lunch, because yes, you'll feel good for a second, everyone will laugh, but then the bully's going to beat the crap out of you after school.
Right.
The better strategy is let the kid have his lunch. Wait 20 years until that guy is, working in a horrible job, and then go up to him in 20 years and be like, hi, I'm Elon Musk. I'm a billionaire. Remember me?
Right. Which is the game that he played in primary school,
Right.
and throughout his years of schooling.
And I'm sorry, it doesn't feel as good in the moment, but know that you will win long term. And like, you need to be focused on the goal here, Elon, which is we need to get those factories up and running. We support you. So I
don't
agree.
worry about these bullies, because again, they're just bullies,
Right, and they only
you've
win.
already dealt with the bullies,
And they only win when you engage them. They actually get
Right.
more power from it. And I agree with Gali. Like, if you need to vent, call up one of us. Call up your buddies like Ron Barron. Call up, Zach and Jesse. Call up Gali and vent, and we'll help you come up with a strategy.
Come up with strategies.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not the best strategic planners, but there are other people.
Right.
Even if
and I think Elon's a great strategic planner, but I think that when you're in the moment, it's not the best time to be planning.
and it's not the best place to plan on Twitter to be like, when Jeff isn't looking, I'm gonna smack him in the face.
Right. It kind of gives away your
It's
strategy.
like Jeff's probably going to be expecting that, and he's probably going to plan his own, counter attack.
Yeah. Don't poke the bear.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for community mail time.
Community mail time.
So our friend Craig sent us this photo. It's the St. Louis Tesla enthusiasts, and they're helping out at the deliveries, just like Elon asked.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. This is our friend Sean in Arizona, and he took his Model S into the desert.
Wait, what? That seems like a bad idea.
Just after it had rained. He said that if you've never driven a car in the sand after a rainstorm, you've got to try it. It's loads of fun.
Oh, it is loads of fun. Remember, we did that in Denmark.
We did. We were driving on a beach, but desert sand, I think, is different.
Yeah.
But anyway, what a cool
Yeah,
picture.
that is cool. And this is Adam's new Model 3. That red P3D in the background is a local guy, Vinny. Not the Vinny you're thinking of. That picked up his in September. And Adam got his back on the 15th of September. And he only had to wait about a month and a week.
Wow.
So that was faster than he thought. And his sons, Evan and Jaden, named his P3D Kevin.
Good job, Evan.
This is our buddy Robert in Wisconsin. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey, I'm at the Tesla store picking up my Teslas this morning.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. What kind of Tesla?
It's a Model 3 Performance.
Oh, wow, that sounds pretty fun. What color is it going to be?
It's going to be bright red.
Bright red, wow.
Yep, and I'm not alone. That's really cool. So, the guys from Now You Know, thank you, Zach and Jesse, for your referral code. Looking forward to meeting you and test driving the Roadster in Wisconsin. Hey, look around. Am I alone here?
No,
Pretty exciting.
you are not. Lots of people picking up Teslas today.
Wow, that is a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we're going to be visiting him in the Roadster because he
Right.
used our referral code for his Model 3 Performance. Our friend Darren in Europe is putting on this race. And let me just tell you about this. So he's celebrating 70 years of the Citroën 2CV. And so they're going to be racing a Citroën 2CV and a Citroën Mahari over 1,000 miles over 3 days. And to make it fun, they're adding into the mix a Tesla Model X. The race has already started, but you can go to this website here, this Facebook, and follow their adventures, and they're going to see who wins. Now, you'd think that Tesla would win automatically, right? Hands down, because it's so much faster. But as Darren points out, the Model X does have to stop and charge, whereas the Citroëns have gas tanks, and so they can go longer range.
Right.
So,
And they're also doing different events. So
Right.
depending on the outcomes of the events, I'm sure there's going to be possibly different outcomes than we might expect.
Now, the cool thing is they're supporting the Children's Hospice of Southwest. So any money that you donate goes to them, and they're raising awareness for that. So that's really nice of them. And the race is going to be from Warminster, UK, to the Mahari Club Cassis in the south of France. So that sounds like a fun race.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see who wins that.
Our friend David in California got his new Model 3. This one looks a little different than most Model
what is that on
3s
the
that
hood?
I've seen. That's Darth Vader.
Can I sing the theme song?
Dun, 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 dun.
That's true. You can sing it wrong. This is Joshua's new Model 3. He's been on the list since April 25th of 2016, and he says it's well worth the wait and couldn't be happier. And Tom in Anaheim got his with this cool tint that he added to it, because I guess it's sunny in Anaheim. Our buddy Paul got this very nice offer from his Chevy dealer. If you read here, it says he gets a free tank of gas with any service over $500.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah. You know the only problem with that?
No.
Do you know what he bought from that Chevy dealer?
A Chevy?
A Chevy Bolt.
Which does not have a gas tank.
So it shows you how clueless. I mean, first of all, he doesn't need any service. The first service that he needs to bring it in for is at 142,000 miles. And when it does, there's no gas that he can put in it.
So they're going to be like, here's your free gas.
free gas.
We filled up for you. Maybe they're going to fill up with electricity.
Maybe.
I doubt it.
All right, it's time for our Patreon viewer question. So if you support us on Patreon, you can ask us a question. And the one we chose this week is from David Adams. He said, do you think the current demand for Model 3 and the high sales numbers are misleading since the pre-order period created such a backlog? Really good question.
A really good question. Now, first of all, let's talk about day one.
Day one. We were there.
Reservation holders. They had practically 400,000 reservations the first day.
Yeah, it was like 350,000 day one.
Right.
So if we look at day one of the backlog, you might be thinking, well, the backlog is because, every month, 5,000 more people got on the list. Well, day one, 350,000 people signed up. And the list is up to approximately 600,000 now. And so, yeah, you might be saying, well, yeah, it's not fair. Other car companies don't have backlogs of people lined up. Those people on that list
didn't see the car.
Didn't see the car, didn't drive the car.
They didn't have any pictures of the car.
Right.
They knew a vague understanding of the specs of the car.
Right. There's no advertising for the car now, whereas every car company in the world runs car ads night and day.
Yep.
There's no leases on the car now. So all the cars that have been sold so far have been sold for cash or loans, whereas leases are the number one way that Americans like to buy their cars. So no leases. The car they're selling now is not the $35,000 Model 3. It is the 55 plus Model 3.
Right.
Also, just want to point out that these cars are only being sold in North America right now. So there's no international sales happening whatsoever.
Right. Now, you might be saying, okay, but once all the, once all these people who are on the list get their cars, you're going to have run out of demand. I don't think that's true because most people have not heard about the Model 3. They may have heard about the Model 3, but they do not know
what
everything
you're talking about.
Right. People are going to start to hear about the Model 3. They're going to start to see the Model 3 a lot.
I'm seeing them everywhere.
I'm seeing them everywhere. And we're in a high concentration area because, we're living in Massachusetts and, it depends on what town you go to, but I see them in practically every town. These people are getting their cars. And right now, only the most expensive Model 3s are in production and being sold to people right now. When the $35,000 car gets into the hands of someone who's been waiting and waiting and waiting, they're going to be so excited and they're going to want to show that car off to everyone they meet because this is the best car they've ever owned because it is the best car that there is. It's going to blow people away. And those people are definitely going to get on the list for the Model 3.
I just want to use your mother, my wife, as an example. She got a Model 3 because we were going to get the Model 3 no matter what, right? But she, let's be honest, she loved her Honda Pilot.
Right.
Was not that excited to make the switch.
No.
As we speak right now, she's driving on a road trip with my mother-in-law, your grandmother, and they are having the time of their life.
Right. This is the first long-distance road trip that she's been on in the Tesla. And just like how we loved it when we were going cross-country and we were like, this is awesome, she loves it just the same.
Yeah. She barely has to charge.
Right, because the Model 3 with the 310-mile range is ridiculous, the ranges that it can go. So, I mean, it's a third longer than Sparky.
She drove 600 miles yesterday, all her.
Right.
And that's through New York, through like the worst roads in the country.
Right. She wasn't trading off.
She only charged at a Supercharger twice. And as that word gets out, as people start talking about the fact that this car is absolutely bonkers amazing, that is how you sell something. That's when most advertisers run ads, they wish that they could get a first-hand testimonial.
Exactly.
That's why they hire actors that you trust, right?
But that's why they're not actors.
Right. But what's better than your best buddy, your son, your brother, who's telling you that this car is amazing?
Right.
Nothing's better than that.
Exactly.
Nothing. All right, so we ran a poll, which I think is very apropos. We asked, do you think the SEC settlement will change the way Elon tweets going forward? So there's kind of a staggering 2-to-1 ratio here that said, yes, I think there will be a change. And I think they're wrong because we just saw that Elon tweeted kind of the same thing that he always does.
I think that he knows that he's going to soon have a committee that's reading through his tweets and ixnaying them. And so I think that he knows that this is his chance to get them out to the world.
All right, it's time for our Supercharger reviews. What do we got?
Hello, Jesse and Zach. Scott and Mary reporting from Peru, Illinois Supercharger. We're on our migration south from Wisconsin to Tennessee. 8 stalls here, 4 here. Brand new Model 3 right there. So new it doesn't even have a license plate on it yet. And 4 more stalls over there. There's the Model X and the glider trailer over there. There's a Hy-Vee supermarket right over here with lots of food and places to eat inside of there, I think. Other places to eat nearby is Culver's over there, and the Buffalo Wild Wings. And just down the road here a bit is a Pizza Hut and something else I didn't quite catch the name of. So places to eat, and we're a little bit off the road. We're probably about, 4 or 5 miles off the road from Interstate 39 here in Illinois. But other than that, nice supercharger. So, now you know.
Dear Zach and Jesse, this is Oliver from Denk Elektrisch, Germany. And we are now in Switzerland at Supercharger Pratteln. And here we have 4 stalls, completely full. And we have in the front of the Supercharger a hotel, a fitness club, a restaurant, and all is here available. But the Supercharger is every time full with Teslas. And here come the next Tesla. And he drives away. Okay. Many people have no time. And this was from the Supercharger Pratteln. See you soon.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. It's David at the Superchargers in Albert Lea, Minnesota. Rented a car from a company called Trebles that is based right now out of the Mall of America in Minneapolis. And they're going to be soon moving to the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport and expanding their fleet from 12 cars, I believe, up to 20 or 30. So this is a pretty good Supercharger stop. There's a McDonald's right here. And then off right catty corner to us here is an Applebee's, a few hotels. This is actually in the parking lot of a hotel. And there's a Harley-Davidson dealership if you want to peruse that too. So here's my 2017 rental 75D. Thanks for doing such a great job, guys. Keep it up.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. It's Jan from Belgium. We're here at the brand new Supercharger, Tesla Supercharger in Wijnenbrugge, which is Bruges actually. So it's the perfect location for people who are transiting from the center of the country to the beach, to the coast. Actually, there's no much amenities here. Only there's one hotel right here, hotel restaurant where you can have some snacks, but also some really good food. But there's nothing much else, no shops, nothing in the neighborhood. But we are here only 5 minutes drive from the beautiful historic center of Bruges. So it's an 8 stall. As you can see, there are five here, and in the corner there are another 3. So I think it's a great Supercharger of location, but not too much of amenities. But I will still rate it 6, 7 out of 10. Okay, thanks again, Jesse. Goodbye. Love your show. Thanks. Bye.
Awesome. It's one of my favorite parts of the show.
It really is.
You get to, and I just want to remind everyone, you can go to nowyouknowchannel.com, go to the Supercharger section. Every video review ever recorded that you've seen on the show is there in a map. So if you're going on a trip and you're like, what does the Supercharger look like? I can see it from Google Maps, but like, I need to know what it looks like.
Right.
You can see what it looks like. You can see what's around. And
there's some cool stuff.
A lot of cool stuff. So
a lot of hidden nuggets.
Check that out.
All right. What do we got for new Superchargers this week, Jess?
We have number 426 in Europe, the 10 stall in Bruges, Belgium.
We've got the 10 stall Urban in Queens, at the Queens Center, New York.
And number 1,370 in the world, number 570 in the US is the 40 stall Urban Supercharger in Daly City, California. 40 stalls.
No lines, I hope. BFREE is businesses for rewarding Elon employees, and we are up to 55 businesses, Jesse. We're close to hitting the 100 mark. Yeah. You guys have pushed it over the hump. We're almost there, so keep going. This week, we've got Soft Touch Acupuncture. There are 3 acupuncture visits for free.
Wow.
If you are a Elon employee. That would be awesome. They're right there in California, so there's plenty of employees there.
I've never done acupuncture.
Yeah.
I've heard good things.
Do it and then write to us and tell us if it's awesome or
it's
not.
free. I mean, what's the worst
Maybe
thing
you're
that
stressed
can happen?
out working on the rocket or something, or the Boring Company.
I mean, I'd be a little worried about getting poked with needles, but want to try it at least once in my life.
Definitely. All right, so we always like to promote a past video because we've done hundreds of videos, and so many people have been reminding us that they like the 1910 versus 2010 video where we're sitting on a porch I'm the old guy. You're the young guy.
Yeah.
And
it's the history repeats itself. So we're going to put that link right over here, and you can click on it and you can watch it. I just want to point out that we did that all in one take. That was all one take. So if you're like, wow, they must have really rehearsed. No, we just like lucked out.
Talking.
We really lucked out. We went over it once, like the points that we would talk about, but it was basically all ad-libbed.
Yeah. All right, it's time for our Patreon giveaway.
Okay, we need the big box of cylinder of things.
It's the Patreon giveaway.
That's what it is. Pick out the winner, Jess.
All right. It's
so how do you get your name into the big spinner thing of things?
So you have to be a Patreon, and every dollar that you give on Patreon turns into a card in our box. So another chance to win for every dollar. So
wow. And what are you going to win this week?
You're going to win an SFSF T-shirt
of your choice.
Doesn't have to be the one Zach is wearing.
No,
so
you'll be able to choose any of them.
So I'm just going to fluff this up.
Because we really thank SFSF for supporting the show. Jesse takes his job seriously.
I do.
That's not mixing them up.
But wait, ready?
All right, that kind of did. Okay. All right.
Jasper Noyens.
All right, congratulations to our Patreon, Jasper Noyens. You're going to be getting an SFSF T-shirt.
Of your choice. And I'm going to put you back.
For another chance.
Another chance, because you still are given that dollar every month.
The more chances you get.
Thank you so much for watching the show. We really appreciate that you watch the show. Now, last week we did an experiment.
I remember that.
Where we asked people to like the video.
Did they?
A lot of people liked the video. We got like up to 6,000 likes or something.
Oh, and that's more than normal?
That is much more than normal. Normally we're hovering around 2,000.
Okay, so what happened?
We did get a lot more views. Now, this is one data point, and so that is not a lot of data. Okay. And it was kind of an interesting news week because of the SEC thing. Yeah. So more people could have been looking for us.
Oh, so I have an idea. Let's tell people to not like this week's episode.
Sure. So if you've liked this week's episode, what I want you to do is click the like button again, which unlikes it.
Oh, but
don't hit the thumbs down because that's bad.
Okay.
But here's what we found out: it did better. If that's true, like if it wasn't because of the news cycle or whatever, it means that YouTube values the like
and shares the video with
and
more
shares
people?
the video with more people. So
that gives the viewer power.
If you're like, oh wow, more people should see this. You just hit the like button, and I guess more people see it.
So it almost should be called something else. It should be called like the share button.
It should be called the share with a stranger button.
Yeah.
I think that's what I want to call it. And the problem is, most people, you watch the video, and then you go on with your life.
Right.
And the problem is that YouTube has this like thing that you need to do in order to be successful as a YouTube channel, basically. I mean, we've done pretty well without doing calls to action, as they're called, where we're like, hey, please like the video, which I don't want to do because I feel like it devalues our show. It lessens the because there are other YouTubers who basically just their whole YouTube career is just being like, hit that like button, guys. If we hit 44,000 likes, we're gonna do something special or something. I don't want to do that because that's not what I want. That's not what we set out to do. It was not. We didn't set out to tell you to hit the like button.
Right.
Makes me upset. But I see that it does better. So I think that occasionally, from time to time, it might make sense for us to have
we could have Vinny Bamboozolini come on the show and promote it for us.
So I mean, I'm thinking of just like a little like reminder of like hit the like button to share this with a stranger kind of thing. I hope that's cool with everyone. You can leave some comments. Let me know what you think.
I like data.
I don't want to do calls to action. I think that it does.
But we need data, so don't hit the like button this week.
And we do calls to action, but they're usually like call your senator, which is that's a good call to action. Right. It's not just like, hey guys, like the show.
You know what else you can do to support the show, though?
Right.
Is you could use our Amazon affiliate link.
Yes.
And we've got two of them, one for the US and one for worldwide.
And the worldwide one automatically knows where you are and then gets you to the right Amazon thing.
Right.
So it's like kind of this magic thing.
It's pretty cool.
And you can use it to buy anything you're buying on Amazon. And again, it's the same price for you.
If you want to use our referral code, that is awesome because you can use it for the Model 3 Performance Edition as well as the Model S and X. Right. And there's some cool perks coming up. I would love to send something to space. So that would be really neat. And I'd love your ideas about what we should write on that piece of glass.
Yeah, I mean, I have some ideas, but I want your ideas.
I like love is the answer, though. I'd like aliens to find that. I don't know what language to write it in, but
they'd probably misinterpret it.
Really?
I don't know. They're aliens.
What is the answer?
Yeah.
And also, don't forget that we have a podcast of this very same show, so you can listen to us in the car Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn. By the way, if you're in the car, TuneIn and Slacker need to have premium accounts if you want to listen to cool podcasts. So you have to pay extra money.
Or just listen to it on Spotify.
That's true. You can listen on Spotify, bring it in the car.
All right.
That's
So
a good idea.
thank you so much for watching this episode of
And thank you to
Tesla
all these
Time
people
News.
because these people are amazing.
Right.
There are amazing Patreons.
They're our lifeblood. We would be dead. We wouldn't be dead. We'd still be living. But as a YouTube channel,
be as happy.
we would not be able to continue the YouTube channel without them.
And I want to shout out to our newsroom as well, because this week we, for instance, needed a bunch of things from them, and they came through.
Right.
Sasha in like 12 seconds came through. It was amazing.
And I mean, a lot of the stories that you hear about during the week are gathered from the newsroom because they come from various sources. It's not just one place. And that's awesome. So thank you so much for watching.
Now
you know.